All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for Listen, Learn, Return, the community engagement program for District 303. My name is Scott Harvey. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the district. In a moment, I'll be introducing our superintendent, Dr. Paul Gordon. You'll also hear from our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Christine Igoe, and the learning and teaching team about academics tonight. So Listen, Learn, Return is a process that started a couple of years ago here in our district to engage our community, coming together to learn from our community and come back with ways in which we're sharing our improvements, steps in which we're making strides to advance our student development, and those are our return meetings. And this is a return meeting tonight on academics. Certainly academics is a topic that is addressed really all the time here in our district. You hear it at our learning and teaching committee meetings each month, at our board and special board meetings on a monthly basis. And this is an opportunity tonight to dive deeper into the academics discussion. So we look forward to sharing that information with you tonight and tell you about some of those current initiatives. So our meeting structure will include a presentation, and then we'll have an opportunity to take your questions at the end. So we ask that you hold those questions until after the presentation. Some of you had a chance to RSVP and submit questions in advance, so we thank you for that. And those questions are going to be answered throughout the presentation. And then you'll also have the opportunity through the QR code on your tables to submit questions privately, if you so choose. There's also a feedback form that we'd ask you to fill out at the end of tonight's presentation. I will now turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Paul Gordon.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you all for being out here tonight. You all seem so far away. I feel like that kind of that churchy thing, like, come on up, it's okay, it's okay. April 4th, 2022. I was sitting right here. I have a few friends in the audience who are sitting like right around here. It was my second interview as a superintendent in this room. It was a Sunday. And the board asked me to bring forward a presentation for where do you see our district going? How do you move a district from good to great? That was their question to me. And it was interesting as the team really did all of this work that you're going to see tonight. But it was a fascinating journey back. It feels like much longer than a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago that I began this journey with the district. But it was interesting to go back and really look at that presentation that I brought forward to the board on April 4th. And to see the work that we're doing is the work that we talked about in this room on April 4th. About creating a system that responds to our students, a system that is dependent on amazing educators throughout the organization, in every classroom, each and every day. Incredible school leaders leading these buildings each and every day. Having a district office that partners with our schools to create sustainable structures. In our district, you hear a lot about structures and systems being put in place to improve the outcomes for our students. We're early in our journey. Tonight's an opportunity to quite honestly celebrate the work of educators throughout D303. From our preschool educators, through our educators who are working with our 18+ students. It's an opportunity to hear about the structures that we're putting in place each and every day. I'm not here telling you we have a perfect district, but I am telling you that we have a district that's moving forward, showing progress, learning together, growing together, celebrating together, and also reflecting on our work together. Because this is incredibly challenging work to do, is to work with 3 to 22-year-olds across our organization. But I can't tell you the immense amount of pride and honor I have to serve, and I mean serve, as the superintendent of D303. It gives me great privilege to be able to come into this job each and every day because of all of our stakeholders, our students. I was just at North High School this afternoon watching the leadership teams work through different activities, growing their strengths. I've been in third grade classrooms last week at Wasco, seeing third grade students struggling through challenging, rigorous work. That's a word you're going to hear quite a bit tonight. Well, I ask, it's a group of 5 boys sitting in the hallway, one on a bouncy chair. This does not sound like this is going to be a successful conversation with me and these boys. I'll tell you, I'm like going in with great nervousness. I'm like, oh boy, how's this going to go? What I was blown away with was the confidence of these young people, answering questions, digging into the rigorous text. And one of their responses was, this is really hard, but it's fun. You're going to hear how we're making it hard while also fun at the same time because of the different structures we're putting in place. Throughout this evening, you're going to hear about our strategic plan. Another thing that I'm very proud of, that collectively the board, staff, students, others came together to really help us build our strategic plan. Our commitment statement, together building pathways to excellence. You'll hear about pathways tonight. You're going to hear about the roadways we're on to deliver on this commitment statement each day. You're going to hear about our values of belonging, perseverance, and achievement. These are incredibly important to D303. The board was instrumental throughout all of this work in setting the tone for where this district's going. Our job is to continue to live within this strategic plan. It gives us a pathway forward. It tells us where we're going, what are we doing. It gives us a place to really be solid collectively. You're going to hear much about our strategic priorities: effective collaboration, instructional coherence, and a culture of dignity. Dr. Igoe will walk through each of those areas and demonstrate the work that we're doing to continue moving D303 forward to what the board asked me on April 4th when I was sitting right here. Dr. Gordon, how are you going to help our district move from good to great? I really feel like the plan is here. But more important than the plan, it's our people. Our people make the difference. I get this great privilege of being in classrooms throughout this district. And that's what continues to drive me each and every day, are the people of D303, our educators. But we're about systems. We're about systems that create great opportunities for each kid throughout our organization. We had a study done that was released in my first few months here. I believe it was in August. And the report was a pretty straightforward report. It literally said, you have inconsistent rigor applied consistently throughout this district. And I'm looking at some of our parents, and they're like, yep, that you probably could have written that report. It was dependent on the educator your children were selected to have. what we're putting in place is where we're lifting up all of our big people. We're giving them the support, the structures to make these moves. I'm telling you, it's not easy though. I wish it were as easy as flipping a switch and all is well. But our pathway forward to excellence, it's paved with a plan and it's paved with great people who are working every day to improve the outcomes for each and every student. So I'm excited to celebrate the work of D303, the work of educators. This is really a celebration of educators throughout D303 and their work to improve students. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Christine Igoe.
Right, good evening. I never really learned to not follow Dr. Gordon. He's a great speaker. So I really want to first start by kind of just grounding us a little bit before we start to talk about some of the work that we're doing and where we've been over time. And this slide really kind of gives us an idea of where have we been over the last 7 years. And I don't necessarily want us to, it tells us where we are compared to the national average. This one is particular for reading. Kind of the 0 is our base there. But the one I really want us to focus in on is the blue one. If you can see that blue line, that's from 2022 to 2023. Kind of represents kind of the growth that we've had in the last year. And the reason I want to think about and celebrate that, because I believe that that's the beginnings of great things happening in our district. While there are definitely things for us to continue to do and there are places for us to grow, we're going to talk a lot about this evening about things we've put in place as it directly relates to our strategic plan and what that means for students moving forward. And we feel that this gives us a sense that we are on the right path and that we will reach where we want to reach, where we are seeing every single kid grow in every single classroom and every single course that we have. This provides that same look in math. Across the nation, we know that students didn't perform quite as well, or they were hit harder by the pandemic in the area of math. And our data definitely walks through those same things. But I really want to talk about how can we, or what are we doing to elevate that learning experience for all of our students? And we're going to lean heavily into our strategic plan this evening. We're going to start by talking about effective collaboration. We're going to give a little bit more information about instructional coherence, and we're going to follow that up with culture of dignity. But I'm also going to talk a little bit before we really dig in to how we are working together and the things that we're putting in place. And I think the most common theme you will hear as we talk this evening is the importance of focus. When we are focused and we are intentional, we see growth. So we're going to talk about what that looks like and how we go and we move and we leverage our strategic plan to have focus and so that we can improve students' learning all the way across the board. While the strategic priorities ground our work and build a nice foundation for us to build from, the success indicators really set high expectations, but attainable goals for our students and for our staff. And this evening, we're going to talk mostly about the 3 that we have up here. This idea of ELA and math proficiency. How are we moving students towards grade level proficiency each and every day? Making sure that all of our students have options and opportunities for advanced courses and ultimately leave the district with early college credit, as well as building a sense of belonging and making sure that we are building an intellectual or a learning environment where our kids feel really safe to take the intellectual risks we need them to take to do the learning we're expecting them to do. We have a great strategic plan. We have great success indicators that are telling us where we're going. The next step is we need a plan for how we're going to implement. And this is something we talk about a lot across the district. This is a system, and this is what a system looks like. And this is our theory of action. And where we kind of think about and kind of ground the work that we have is in this theory and this belief and mindset that we believe every single person in the district, every single staff member is responsible for moving the learning of every single student. It's more than the students in your class or your school. It is every student in the district. And we do that by thinking about how and what are everybody's responsibilities, from the district office to building leadership to our PLCs or our teacher teams, right? What are we doing and how are we doing those things? And building in those reciprocal accountability pieces. Like, what are you responsible for and how are we making sure that's happening? What are you responsible for? How are we making sure that's happening? What is the feedback loops that we are consistently building over time so that we are processing that information and then adjusting it along the way, because we know that whatever plan we have will not be perfect. And it won't be perfect, and our job is to respond to the information in front of us and then adjust course in order for our students to succeed. So this is really how we go about doing those things, and this is our theory of action. I'm gonna play a video. We've got a couple of videos throughout tonight, really about one of our principals, and he's gonna talk a little bit about what's it like now that we're building a singular system kind of across the district, and how has that changed the learning for kids.
I think one of the greatest things we've done in this district is bring structured PLCs to all of our schools, to each team, each department. For a long time, we were lacking a plan, and this administration has brought us a plan. And that plan has brought structure to our instruction, it has brought structure to our planning, it has brought structure to our PLC meetings that we've just not had. So from a principal's perspective, with a strong plan, with high expectations and high accountability, I can deliver on that. But when things aren't clear, when there's no set solid plan, it's really hard to deliver. And now that we have that and we have the accountability component, I think we've begun to see this big shift that's going to forever change this district.
I'm actually going to turn it over to Pam Jensen, who's our Senior Director for Professional Learning, to tell you a little bit deeper into what are the systems that we're building.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a moment to explain my position a little bit and what I do. I have the awesome opportunity to work with our educators in supporting them in professional learning. And we have so much professional learning and such amazing educators that want to learn. And they want to learn so that they are the best they can be in front of the classroom for the children in our district. So we offer courses, we offer job-embedded coaching, and that's kind of overwhelmingly what I do. I also help support all of our new educators in their learning too. So, let's see, this way. So strategic priority number 1 is effective collaboration. And we have a system for effective collaboration called professional learning communities. So when we look at effective collaboration, it is people working interdependently to positively affect student learning and take collective responsibility for outcomes of District 303 students, staff, and our community. So again, professional learning communities are what I'm going to talk about when we talk about effective collaboration. So you may be thinking, what do teachers talk about in professional learning communities? Well, there are 4 main questions that we look at. And the 4 main questions are, what do students need to know and be able to do? How will we know they learned it? How will we respond if they didn't learn it? And how will we respond if they already know it? These questions are being asked by educators every week, and they are looking at each student. So they're asking these questions about each student that they have. So that's what our professional learning communities do. Now you may be thinking, how do they know about each student? Well, we've implemented something called quick checks. What quick checks are they're mini assessments every 5 days that we're learning about what students know and what they don't know. And then we respond and change our instruction based on what we hear about. And this is the system of our effective collaboration. So the next video that you're going to see is one of our staff members, a department chair at East, talking about what quick checks mean in their professional learning community.
I think the quick check system that we've done at the high school level is really forced us to almost sort of sit back and be purposeful about what we're asking kids to do. And so a lot of that work, as we may have done in the past, is now really hyper-focused. And so we're doing more exit slips. We're doing little things like, what did we ask the kids to do today that's going to impact what we're doing tomorrow. And so with these quick checks, our responsive instruction is much more focused. We can talk within our PLCs and really ask ourselves, okay, the kids are responding this way, how should we change instruction for tomorrow? And it's not like we hadn't done that in the past, but this is now a system where we're really tracking, are the kids meeting the expectation? Are the kids truly getting us to that position where we feel like we're able to respond to their learning?
Okay, so overall, you can know that this is happening in every building with all educators talking about each student. So they're looking at the learning that's actually happened, they're talking about it every week, and then they are responding with their instruction, and that's our system. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tina King, who is our Senior Director of Teaching and Learning.
Hello, I'm Tina, and my job in learning and teaching is to support educators, teams of educators, leaders, and administrators in developing high-quality curriculum and recommending instructional materials and creating common assessments for our students across the district. I'm going to talk about strategic priority, our second strategic priority, instructional coherence, because this is where all my work is at. Instructional coherence means that we have guaranteed high levels of learning for every student across our system from beginning to end, ensuring that D303 graduates are college and career ready and achieving at high levels. There are 4 parts to our work in a curriculum cycle, and we talk about a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Guaranteed means that Algebra 1 at East High School is the same experience at Algebra 1 at North High School. And that also means that 3rd grade is a similar experience no matter what elementary school you're attending in the district. There are really 4 parts to a guaranteed and viable curriculum that our educators recommend and design. And the first part is our vision. The vision are our beliefs, our guiding principles, and our practices about our core content area. And that's a research-based document that the team produces, and we use that to guide effective instructional decision-making as we move through this process. The second thing in a guaranteed and viable curriculum is our priority standards. And that means, you're going to hear a lot of talk about priority standards tonight, but it really means not all standards are created equally. There are, 60 standards maybe in one topic in one grade level. Not all of them are as important. So as educators, we all got together. It was an amazing experience because we did it K-12, and we decided what is the most important things to learn this year in this course or in this grade level. So what standards have endurance, leverage, and readiness for our students for the next level? So the priority standards then lead us to choosing and recommending high-quality instructional materials. And those are the materials for our students that guarantee rigor, grade level proficiency. That means that all students have access to high grade level appropriate assignments, activities, and text. In math, it means we're working at the proficiency level that we need to demonstrate for the standard. And then finally, we have common assessments. So our teams get together. They use those priority standards to backwards design and create common assessments. And that does really 2 things. It measures and ensures that we have that proficiency across the district because we're all using the same assessment, and that defines the target before we start instruction. And the second thing is our educators use it to measure their impact on student learning and how their students are progressing towards mastering those priority standards. So that's a guaranteed and viable curriculum. We're now going to hear from educators about the way that priority standards has changed their work this year.
The priority standards are a way to help us stay focused on what we want students to be able to do, what our priorities are about what they should know, and show us. We need the priority standards to know what assessments we are asking kids to do. In my work with our curriculum renewal cycles, a lot of our scope and sequence as we design our units of study need to focus more coherently on focused, high leverage concepts, so we're not feeling like we're doing all things equally, because for kids it's difficult to chunk their learning. And so the priority standards help us as teachers know what are we focused on, what's the highest leverage to get us to spiral kids through a program of study. And so they really help us as teachers make some decisions and really focus for kids on what's important, what's key, what's going to help them in the next cycle of learning.
Teachers now know what's important. We've had this huge group of standards before, and the standards are all important to teach, but making sure that we hit those priority standards, those very best, most important student standards that students have to walk out of class with. They can't leave 7th grade or 6th grade without knowing this chunk of information. So it's really driven our instructional focus, our teaching in classrooms, our conversations about learning with students. It's really driven those things hard for this year, and we've really started to see the impact on kids' learning, which is exciting.
By choosing those priority standards, those are those standards that are essential to master for the next grade. So we're able to dig deeper and provide those opportunities for students to have different experiences within those standards.
Priority standards at the high school level has been it's been a very challenging thing to look at, just because the nature of how specific some of our content areas have been. So we've had to adjust a lot with our understanding and our learning in professional development with priority standards. And I would say that work's not done, but it's really helped us to sort of narrow in, okay, this is nice, but this is necessary. And clearly delineating that with students has been something that's allowed us as PLCs to say, we may not have them in full proficiency with this particular topic, but that's okay, because that's a content level topic. It's a secondary standard for us. And so as we work with these primary standards or priority standards and also the supporting standards, that's allowed us to have a little bit of autonomy within our PLCs, but also hold kids highly accountable to the ones that they must have as we finish and get through the course.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Wojcik. She is our ELA and Social Studies Coordinator for the district.
Thank you, Tina. Yes, my work is really around supporting curriculum and instruction as it relates to the content areas of ELA and social studies. But I don't do that work alone. We have an amazing team of teachers on special assignment that support our work in these particular areas as well. And tonight I'm going to talk to you about some celebrations that are really exciting to be able to share. They're the kinds of results that we haven't seen in English language arts in a really long time. And so I'm going to talk about some of the specific actions that we put into place that yielded the kinds of results that we're here to celebrate tonight. And one of those things kind of goes back to what Dr. Gordon was sharing at the beginning of our evening tonight. Those 3rd graders out in the hallway, really digging in to complex grade level text. And when we say digging in, we're talking about really understanding the important ideas within those texts, not only to take that in, but also to be able to articulate those ideas through writing and to provide evidence from what they gathered from the text. We worked really hard last year to put that in place, particularly at all grade levels in our elementary schools, and we continue that work K-12, and we're seeing the results of that because we saw a 7.8% increase in our students across our entire district being proficient in the ELA standards last year. I want to specifically talk about one of our grade levels where we saw a really major impact, and that's at 4th grade. At 4th grade, we had a big increase from 39 to 66% in our writing scores. That means that we had a big increase in the amount of students that are able to show proficiency through that writing. And again, that was something that we focused on particularly last year across all of our schools and all of our classrooms. Of particular note are the amount of students that are exceeding standards. So in 4th grade, we saw 5 times as many students exceeding our state standards this year compared to the year prior. That's an amazing thing to be able to celebrate. I also want to talk about how we saw an impact in terms of our students that are eligible or are qualifying and being a part of now our AT-ELA program. So we saw a 121% increase in students now qualifying in AT-ELA. And because of the equitable supports that we've put in at all levels, we're seeing benefits for all kids. I want to draw attention to our English learners, where we had 40% of our English learners proficient as measured by that state assessment. And we had the highest number of students exiting that program because of their English proficiency. And that's something that I believe that we're all really communicating and celebrating tonight are the supports that we have in place for all of our students. We're thinking about our students that have already met grade level standards and how we support them in working beyond, as well as those that haven't met those grade level standards yet, and how we accelerate their learning by focusing on those priority standards that have been identified at all levels. And so now I'm going to turn it back to Tina, who's going to share some more celebrations in science.
Thank you, Dr. Wojcik. All right. Do you remember that blue line at the very beginning of our presentation? That was our bounce back from the pandemic. And we're going to see some of that bounce in the data that I'm going to share with you and the stories that I'm going to tell you next. So I'm going to start with building opportunities in science. We have a big transition next year from our Empower program in elementary school. We are rolling over to a STEM program, so science, technology, and engineering for all students in kindergarten through 5th grade. So next year, every elementary school will have a STEM specialist that will teach science to all students in elementary school. And we have a team of educators working very hard right now. I'm very excited about learning the science standards for our students. Then this is a bounce, and this is so exciting because this is the result of the professional learning that Pam has led and the guaranteed and viable curriculum that teachers have put together, and a great deal of effort for the last 3 years in middle school science. So in middle school science last year, in the spring of 2023, we had 82% of our students demonstrating proficiency or exceeding standards in science. And this is a big deal. This is comparable to the most elite school districts in the state of Illinois. Very similar to students feeding into New Trier and Stevenson High School. So a big celebration for our middle school educators and our middle school students, well prepared to go on to science in high school. So that leads to the work that we're doing this year in high school science. In high school science, we are working on creating new pathways that give students access to accelerated coursework earlier, and also creating rigorous experiences for each student, even if they're not interested in science as a career. But we're creating scientific literacy for all students. So this is an amazing new project that we've been working on this year, and I'm excited to kind of unveil it tonight with you. But that's building a K-12 pathway for computational thinking and computer science. And you might be thinking, well, my students aren't really interested in computer science. Isn't that just for nerds? No, not anymore. You all know with those phones in your hand that everything we do is connected to technology. So we are starting as part of that STEM program. Every student in kindergarten through 5th grade is going to have a unit of study in computational thinking, coding, and programming. So that's going to set them up for their entrance into middle school. And then if they're interested in middle school, we have several choices from our PLTW courses, which means project lead the way, that they can choose robotics, automation, and also app creations and coding. And then that leads us to a new course we're offering next year in high school. In addition to a course we already had, AP Computer Science A, but that was a course for upperclassmen, really people seriously interested in going into computer science in college. Next year, we're offering Computer Science Principles. This course is accessible for all students as early as their freshman year. They need no prerequisite skills in computer science, and they also don't need any experience. So you just need to be concurrently enrolled in Algebra 1, and you can take this class. So this class is not just for computer science majors, it's for students that will be using technology in engineering, in medicine, in graphic design, in the arts. So we're really excited to offer that course next year and create those opportunities for students. Okay, now math. So we are building possibilities for students in mathematics. We have a solid foundation in elementary school that's led to some great success in middle school. So let's take a look at some of this data together. Currently, right now, sitting in our 6th grade classrooms, 57% of our students are enrolled in an accelerated or an AT math class. That means that they get access to Algebra 1 or maybe even honors geometry before they get to high school. And that's a great increase over the 30 to 40% we'd had in previous years. That leads to greater success for all students in 7th grade. So building on that foundation of evidence-based practices and a guaranteed and viable curriculum, last year in 2023, 14% more of students were proficient in 7th grade mathematics. That was our highest growth rate ever in the district. So that blue line, that bounce, we're seeing in 7th grade. Also, it meant that all students bounced, not just those students in accelerated courses. So last year, we had twice as many students with IEPs meet grade level proficiency in 7th grade. I'm going to say that again. Twice as many students with IEPs in 7th grade met grade level proficiency. And then it gets better because now all those students that are well prepared are building a great foundation for success in high school. Last year in 2023 on the PSAT, we had our highest scores ever in the district with 13% more students exceeding and meeting standards on the PSAT. So we are looking forward to that bounce continuing in high school. Also, next year, educators in grades 6 through 12 will be redesigning our math pathways to give students more acceleration opportunities earlier, and also to develop a rigorous curriculum and select new instructional materials. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Yvette Stahl, our gifted coordinator.
I'm one of those computer science-y people, I'm just telling you. As Tina said, my name is Yvette, and I serve as the gifted coordinator for the district, and I have the pleasure of being able to promote and support and monitor any accelerated and advanced programming that we have for our students, and it is truly a gift to do so. Our success indicators within the strategic plan allow us to focus in on those post-secondary plans that students have, and not waiting until they're going on to their post-secondary plans, but instead making sure that they can leave with credit towards that post-secondary plan. And the way that students typically do that within our system is by taking and earning credit in AP courses. As you'll see on the screen, we offer over 30 AP courses, advanced placement courses, for students at the high school level. You can see there's a wide variety of them. So if I'm a student who is a computer science student, or if I'm a student who's involved in the arts, or a student who's involved in world languages, I have an opportunity to take a course or many courses within my high school career that earns me credit for what I'm going on to next. But more importantly, it also creates an opportunity for students to experience the rigor of college level classes in a safe high school environment where they have scaffolds and they have phenomenal teachers that know them and walk them through that first attempt at college level material. There are some classrooms that I visit often that are AP classrooms. I find that students are quite honest with me about how things are going and how they feel and what they're learning. It's the best part of my job. And I just happened to be in one this week that I've visited a few times, anytime I really want to check in and see how things are going. And I told some of the students what I was doing this evening, and they said, "Can we share some things?" And my first thought was, oh goodness, what? And then I thought, yes, please, let's hear from you as well about your AP experience, but also your learning experience. So we ended up talking a little bit about how they feel appropriately challenged within their courses. So that's the video that'll come up next.
So this has been one of the first years that I think I've really felt challenged in a lot of my classes. And I think that just when I'm talking about like a challenging class, I feel like a good challenge is when the content is challenging. Like, I'm in AP Calc BC right now. The content is challenging, but the teacher's really great, and what I really love about it is the sense of accomplishment that comes after you pass this new skill on a test or something else, or just even being able to use a new skill in class and realizing that you got it.
Being appropriately challenged just helps me be more engaged with the material, and I want to go more into depth, so I spend more time on it outside of the classroom. Like, genuinely, there's certain classes where are appropriately challenged that I'm like, every day I'm so excited to go to those classes, such as AP Research or in one of my other classes that I have. It doesn't get too stressful, it doesn't get too boring, and it's just very interesting to learn.
So the immediate thing that I think of is that in the, I guess a silly way, it kind of makes me feel like an adult. It makes me feel more grown up that I'm taking these classes that are kind of putting me in the perspective of how I guess an adult would think, or what I view as an adult, I guess. And especially AP Research, the class that I'm in now, I'm put in a position where I'm doing the whole process of something an adult researcher would do, and I'm just given the resources to go off of that. So given the freedom and the courses I'm taking now, AP classes, I'm just able to kind of express what I would be doing in a real life career.
It was exciting to talk to them about what they're experiencing, and all of the students in the classes that I visit that are sitting in an AP class have taken a different pathway there. AP classes are incredibly accessible. They're designed to be accessible. Some of them have prerequisites, but these students take different pathways. These are not students in all of our high schools who are all accelerated. Some students get there in their own time, and others jump right in freshman year. Thank you. Given that we are looking at pathways for students, and students are starting to develop pathways for themselves, we've taken some time to engage in continuous improvement this year about what pathways do look like leading up to that opportunity to gain some post-secondary credit before leaving the district. So as we've taken a look at a few key components, we've really focused in on creating meaningful pathways. Oftentimes when our students and families consider whether or not to accelerate a student at the elementary or middle school level, they may not be thinking of what it looks like in 11th or 12th grade. So creating visuals and pathways and dialogue around what does this mean for your student long term? Is this a proper plan for your student in your mind as a parent? And making all of that very transparent. In addition, we've moved to multiple phases of identification. We know that students are complex and they arrive at readiness at different times and in different ways. So we're able to really dig into robust data about students, but we're also able to gather information and work with families alongside acceleration as well. Increased communication with families, starting to revamp the information that we provide on a regular basis, communication on a daily basis when needed, and also just the resources that families can access around acceleration and what a pathway could look like for an individual student. And finally, we're constantly monitoring some of the data that we've talked about tonight. We're looking at data around the district to decide, are there areas where students are telling us they're ready for more as a group? Do we need to think about growing opportunities for students, shifting opportunities for students because they're showing us they're ready for more as well. For those of you familiar with AP and AP exams, our AP courses culminate in the opportunity to take an AP exam and then potentially earn college credit. And when students engage in these exams, they are rigorous, but they have the support of teachers all year. And typically, students who earn credit earn a 3, 4, or 5 on an AP exam. And I've just grabbed a snippet from each of our core departments here to show an example. What you see before you are 4 courses that we currently offer in the performance in last May's exam season. For instance, AP Calculus BC, 98% of the students who engage in that course see success by gaining college credit-bearing scores on those exams. We also see some feedback from our students in the enrollment increases that occur. When students are signing up for courses, when they're interested in courses, when they're also increasing in performance, we know that that course is meeting a need, whether that's an interest or gosh, this is on my pathway, this is what I want in order to move forward in what I'm doing in a post-secondary level. So you can see several of our courses where we're having a lot of success, but also I want to emphasize, for instance, AP World History. This is a course that's really accessible to freshmen and sophomore. In fact, you'll see here 99% of the course is freshmen and sophomore students. And that may seem strange. Like, these are college level courses. But remember, these college level courses are designed for high school students to scaffold them into that learning. So we see high enrollment and growing enrollment for students who are freshmen and sophomores, and we also see high levels of performance. We are creating opportunities as well. As I mentioned, we want to monitor everything that's going on so that we're paying attention to what students are telling us they need. So in the upcoming year, we've created an opportunity for 2 courses. You heard Mrs. King talk earlier about the AP Computer Science Principles course, but we're also adding the AP Pre-Calculus course. This will maximize our AP Math that we can offer in the district. It also gives every student an opportunity to take an AP Math course at some point in their high school career if they choose to. In taking a look at some of the enrollment that's already popping for next year, students are showing us they've had an interest in this course as the enrollment is already exceeding the number of students that we had enrolled in Honors Pre-Calculus this year. That Computer Science Principles course that you heard about, I think Mrs. King described it really well. If I were interested in computer science and wanted to study that, or if I didn't know if I was interested, but it sounded interesting, I probably wouldn't want to wait till my senior year to experience that. And predominantly the students in our current AP Computer Science A course are seniors. It's a high-level course. But this other AP course, it really takes students from the basics of I'm just interested to scaffolding up to being ready for that AP Computer Science A course. And one of the goals is the course is really to be able to offer a meaningful elective that's interesting to students, engaging, and also this is one of the more project-based courses as well, even on the exam. So you'll see just in the graph there to the right that more students, even if we just already peek into our enrollment for next year a little bit, we see more than twice the amount of freshmen and sophomore that are now going to be enrolled in an AP Science course in the district. Once again, students are telling us that we are offering this and they are thankful for that. They are interested in trying this out, so we're meeting their needs. Our AP performance overall, about 82% of our students were successful last year on their AP exams, if we just look at that across the board. And this district, just so you know, consistently, significantly exceeds the Illinois means for AP exam performance and all of the global means. There are 75 countries that give the AP tests, and we significantly outperform those means on a regular basis. I think I'll turn it back over to Dr. Igoe.
All right, before I jump in and start talking about culture of dignity, I just want to round up kind of that conversation we had around instructional coherence and really hit heavy some of the things that we talked about and what that means for the work that we do, right? So we really highlighted ELA as we're starting to see some of the things, we're starting to see some really good things happening in 4th grade. And why we saw those things happening is we were focused and we were intentional. And we were very focused on those evidence-based strategies, and that's important. But the other piece to that story is a high-quality instructional materials. And so we have K-8 high-quality instructional materials in our ELA program that is cohesive, that helps to set the bar. And we know that there are 2 leverage points for us. One is high-quality instructional resources or materials. The other is evidence-based instructional practices. So what we've now have is something that we have that first one in place, K-8, as well as those evidence-based instructional strategies, that focus, that intention. Pam, we talked about how important it is for her work in terms of making sure our teachers have those skills. That's what has happened in that time, is we put a lot of intention, a lot of focus, and we built the teachers with those skills, and now we've paired that with a real high quality resource, which is why we're beginning to feel, we feel very confident in what that will bring us moving forward. For high school, we have just started that work. We are piloting, or field testing, I should say, a resource this year that is also that common rigorous piece, and we will continue that work as we move forward. In math, same idea. We talked about that solid base that we have in elementary. That is that high quality instructional materials that we have in place. And that in 612, while we have high quality instructional materials, we're going to re-look at that and figure out how do we best leverage those pieces so that we can continue to build on the skills that we have in elementary school. So I just really wanted to talk about, we have seen some really good points and some great things happening, but there's been some intentionality, and here's how we've taken what we've been doing and spread it and leveraged it across all areas. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about a culture of dignity. And I really want to talk about what we mean by a culture of dignity and that need or sense of belonging that we have, that we believe is important for all of our students. And when we talk about that sense of belonging, what we're really talking about and what research tells us is we have got to build learning environments and learning communities that children and staff feel that they are an active participant in, that they bring something of value and they're seen as somebody who offers input into that. Because if without that environment, they're never going to be in a spot to take the risks we need them to take to really dive deep into the learning that we're doing. And oftentimes when we talk about belonging, we are talking about the relationships that our students and our teachers have, how well they feel like they're affirmed, they're being accepted, they're validated in their thinking. But I want to talk a little bit about what does that really mean? And how do we build some of those things? And at the heart of that, it's by showing and presuming competence in our kids. That means that our educators have a strong sense that our kids can. They set a high expectation, they set a high bar, they move in and they provide lots of support when kids need that support. And there's no better way to build a sense of belonging for our students than to put something in front of them that's hard and have a teacher stand behind them and say, you can do hard things. You will succeed. And when the process is done, for them to say, I got it, I did it. That's how we build a sense of belonging. So it's about being intentional, having confidence in our kids, but not lowering the bar and letting them know that they can get to the goal. So we're going to hear a little bit from our educators about what does it look like to put some of those things in action in the classroom.
They simply go through a quick formative or a quick check and they say, yes, the kid got it, no, the kid didn't. They grab that pile of kids who didn't get it, and they find out the one that had the most common misconceptions, where kids got it wrong most commonly. And then they work with kids. They have kids come up and explain where they got it wrong, where they think they got it wrong, and the whole class learns from that. Kids feel proud that they're able to figure it out. This classroom is a safe learning environment, so kids are vulnerable and are able to take that risk. And in the end, what happens is is that kids learn. I think the greatest thing that I've heard from kids is that school's a little harder and they're enjoying it. Like they're reading text that is at a higher level, they're more challenged, and it's more interesting text. And again, teachers don't have to worry about finding resource. They have this great resource to be able to pull from that is highly engaging, it's interesting, and kids feel that same way. You walk into an ELA classroom right now, or a science or social studies, where kids are reading grade level texts, rigorous texts, and the level of discourse is significantly higher. And when you challenge kids, they're excited about it. It's not just a grown-up thing. Kids enjoy being challenged. That's why they come to school. And I think really kids who have often been bored at school and might cause some issues in a class, part of that is because they're bored and they haven't been challenged. And now we're seeing kids of all different levels, all different abilities challenged at a higher level. Kids are rising to the occasion. It's perfect. It's exactly what we want.
There are so many ways to provide access to rich level texts that are interesting and engaging to kids. I always think that kids step up to challenges we give to them, and we express our confidence that they can do it, and we find a way to make them feel successful, and it builds their confidence, it builds our energy. It really makes a great learning environment when we challenge kids with those grade level or above texts.
So really what we want to hit home is that idea that our kids really do respond when we put a challenge in front of them. And we want to continue to put those challenges in place with the levels of support that we have to ensure that our kids are getting what they need. But we really do, like we are feeling really strong and good about the work that we're doing in terms of making sure our kids have what they need to get to the goals that you as a community have and we as educators have. We absolutely believe every kid can, and we want every kid to hit those grade level proficiency, and we believe we are on the path to create a system that works together to do those things.
Beautifully stated, beautifully done. I just so much admiration for our learning teaching team, the work they're all putting in to create our system in D303 that, you know, together building pathways to excellence. You heard about this work. I want to just thank our families who took the time to come out to learn more about D303, because there's a lot of information, as Dr. Igoe said, had different committee meetings and others, but we really felt this was an opportunity to talk about the work that we're actually doing, the day-to-day work, that the meaningful work of our educators, each day doing this very challenging systems work. So thank you for coming out, learning a little bit more about D303 and the work we're doing. We have a few minutes left for just some questions that any of you may have around our work, the work of the district, anything along those lines. So we work directly from the Illinois school standards. So our standards are the state of Illinois standards. So what, and Christine and Tina jump in on with me. So what our job is, because there are literally hundreds of them, that would take, somebody did some research on this piece. It's like we taught every one of the standards, it would take over a year and a half to actually teach them. So what we've done is say, with our educators and outside experts to review them, say what are the most important standards that our students need to know for this grade level or course. So our teams came together, spent a lot of time, and our teacher teams came together and really spent a ton of time to really review all this information, and then we sent them out to an outside expert to like, hey, let's have somebody else look at these, give us feedback, are we close or not? Tina, Christine, did I come close?
You did, Dr. Gordon. I want to say I'm so excited that you even know those exist. We do. We are a great team. We actually started with the ISB priority standards first as a first place for us to learn. They were created during the pandemic, and they kind of helped educators who maybe had disruptions in learning kind of figure out what was most important. So we started there, and then we also looked at examples of assessments which also define our rigor and expectations for students. So we used both of those resources, and then the conversations, I remember that date, April 7th last year, that all the educators came together at every level in the district and worked through that work, and the conversations were really exciting to hear them talking about standards.
Great question. Go.
Yes. And remember, in different grade levels, different things are important, so we started with those. Yes, it is. It's on the website.
It's on our website under the Learning Teaching Department.
It's under the Learning and Teaching under Curriculum.
That's great. Yes, ma'am.
No, that's a great question. The AP performance on the slide was actually getting credit, college credit bearing scores. So if they got a 3, 4, or 5, that's what that meant. So just looking at that cohort, if it said increased performance 9%, it's from one year to the next. Yes. Gotcha. There you go, right there. We do offer dual credit courses. We focus primarily on AP courses tonight. That is the most common pathway. We have a more diverse amount of classes. We also teach all of our AP courses in-house. Like our teachers teach those, so it speaks to most of them. We do offer dual credit courses through ECC. We have a variety of them, not as many as AP. We do have some, like we have an AP English course, we have AP Speech. Generally speaking, students make a decision as to which way they want to go. In some departments, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do both an AP course and a dual credit course. For instance, in English, we oftentimes see students choosing one or the other so that there's no redundancy. But our dual credit courses do offer our high school students the opportunity to actually get this portable college credit through dual credit. So they can take a transcript with them to, say, a 4-year university in Illinois, and they've already got credit for a course. The differences in AP is that there's a little bit more of a sliding scale. Universities get to set their standard for what they'll give credit for. So for instance, computer science principles, a lot of our computer science students love to apply to U of I, and oftentimes U of I will give credit for a 3, 4, or 5, for instance, in computer science principles. You might go to another university, maybe one outside of the state, and they may choose to give credit just if a student scored 4 or 5. So sometimes there's a little bit of a sliding scale, and some of the universities have some discretion, whereas some of the dual credit courses will give you that guaranteed college credit for some.
Yeah, I know everyone's chomping at the bit to answer this one. Great question for us. One of the most important things that we can do for students is hold a high bar for each and every student. The thing that we do students a disservice in education, not D303, but in education broadly, is lower the bar for students. Students of poverty, students who are multilingual, students who have other labels we attach to them in education. We oftentimes, research bears this out, that we lower the bar. What we're saying, what you heard tonight from every one of our educators up here, is our expectation is that it's at grade level and beyond. You heard even my story around WASCO, where students are engaged in grade level text. This, I know it sounds counterintuitive to our parents when we're saying this, but that has not been the expectation. Our expectation is that students in each grade level, in each course, they're expected to meet that standard now, not lower it. You also heard a number of individuals, the science department chair up at East speak about this, are quick checks. It's a really important aspect of what we're doing. They're all aligned to the standards. So we're offering quick checks every 5 days to students on those standards. What it tells us is who's doing, who's achieving it, who's struggling, and then what you also heard is why. And we're in there with our next instructional moves to support those students. Remember, priority standards, what we're saying is that we're guaranteeing that our kids, when they walk out of this grade level or this course, they have those. That's why it's so important for us to be focused, understand our students, understand our standards, understand our content. and that we continue to work these pieces. Why priority standards, again, are so important? When we know the research that if you were to actually teach every one of those standards, it would take you a year and a half to actually teach them. We have to say, what is the most important thing for our students? Do not do the mile wide and inch deep. Get deep into this work. Dr. Igoe spoke about this. Grade level, what it looks at third grade has to look the same from Belle Graham to Wasco to Richmond to Anderson and everywhere in between. That is a huge first step in our district. When you heard back in August of 22, when 2 research firms came out and said, you have inconsistent rigor consistently, that is telling us we have low bars and some high bars. What it tells me as a person who's been in this field for a long time and been in different districts is that as educators sometimes we lower that bar for kids. Students told me they like hard work. In their language, we like the hard work. When our educators are behind us, when our educators are supporting us, when our educators are doing all of those necessary pieces. So I believe, I'm going to take out that qualifier. Taking it out, I believe. I know because of our educators, because of the structures we're putting in place, that this system will thrive. We are not going to be perfect, but we're going to keep getting better each and every day because of the structures we're putting in place, because educators are spending time in their PLCs to talk about each student, to know where they're at academically. And I'm telling you, this is not easy. Our system has struggled as we've implemented these changes. We've had a lot of changes in D303 since I've been here. A year, I know parents are like, really? There's been nothing going on around here. It's been super quiet and wave free around here since you walked in here, Dr. Gordon. We've had tons going on that our community's feeling, but our educators as well. I am so proud of our educators for really jumping into this work and transforming their instructional practice. The only thing that is going to end up changing a student's day through that classroom is that teacher's instruction. When we raise the bar, when we deliver the best instruction possible, each student, no matter their background, that culture of dignity, no matter your background, no matter your zip code, no matter your background, we've got you. We've got you. That's where we want to be, and that's where we're going. I don't know. Sometimes I get up on my soapbox. Sorry.
You said a lot, and you said it all well. I think, and I would really, the question about how are we supporting all of our kids really comes down to what are we doing in our core, and how are we improving the core instruction each and every day. And part of the stories we told tonight in ELA, in grade 4, we saw that in every building. We saw those great leaps and those great bounds. And in grade 7, we saw it in math, every building. So it feels like there should be something more, or there's another piece to tell, but it really is about solid core instruction with built-in responsive opportunities to monitor kids every 5 days and then make a change if we're not where we need to be.
We're improving the outcomes each day for what I always, my team knows what's coming next. We have to continue to grow our big people so they can grow their little people. That's our responsibility. We have to grow our educators so they can do the amazing work each day with your children. It's an awesome task. It's also an awesome responsibility that we know what we hold in our hands each and every day. And it's a privilege to teach the students of D303. And we're getting better at it. Thank you all for coming out. Oh, I will always need more support from parents. Absolutely. One of the core functions of a district is to really, for all of us to come together, to do this work, for us to do this best, is when we're all in this game together. When our community stands next to us and we're doing this work together. That's when the great districts, they're great, not just because the district's really good. They're great because all the stakeholders are like, we got you. We got you. Yeah. So I'll probably call on my executive directors of schools. They're like, hey, tonight was not supposed to be our night. Really talking, I know. But we have amazing opportunities for our parents to be involved at the elementary level, for our parents to be volunteering in our schools, at our middle schools, and at our high schools. But it's also at the board table when we're seeking input, coming to these events and learning more. Going last night, I don't know how many are our middle school parents, but we had an incredible opportunity last night around bullying, cyberbullying, that we had over 100 parents, and for us, that was a pretty big night. Listen to a speaker come out and speak to our families. That individual was also at both Redling and I believe Thompson today, Redling yesterday and Thompson today. That's that engagement we need. We need, quite honestly, this room should be packed. This room should be packed to learn about what we're doing. Sharing, your questions, Ted, are awesome. I was like, those are awesome questions. Like, tell me more about AP data. Tell me more about your Illinois standards. Tell me, that's what we need. We need more parents here hearing what our amazing educators throughout D303 are doing. That's what we need. For us, for the superintendent, I think that's my next move, is more of the parent community engagement, to be quite honest. Because under that collaboration, we focused on educator collaboration, but within that strategic priority is community engagement. That really is my next instructional move that I have to make. One of the things that I did, I had to put a pause on our community advisory. It was just like I had so much on the plate. I'm like, I can't do this, this, and this. But we've got to look at those different opportunities to have families come in, because this is what's going to make us a stronger, better education for our students today and tomorrow. Those are great. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, folks. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate your advocacy and your support for D303. Have a great night. Bye, everybody.